More time trying to call the President of the United States to get crime in his city under control. The President wants to allow law enforcement, whether it's state, local, federal, to do their jobs, to arrest criminals, to put them behind bars, and to remove public safety threats from American communities. He'll continue to do that. Thank you, guys.
Realmente, amigos, Karoline Leavitt, la secretaria de Donald Trump, no sirve para su trabajo. Es agresiva, es grosera. Y lo peor de todo es que siempre se equivoca. Una vez más, nos volvió a demostrar en una conferencia de prensa totalmente desastrosa cómo es que pierde los estribos, cómo se confronta con los periodistas y cómo termina hundiéndose aún más al ser confrontada por los escándalos de Trump. Vamos a entrar en detalle a lo más importante, pero antes recuerda que si aún no lo has hecho, te invito a que me dejes tu like en este video, te suscribas a nuestro canal, porque amigos, su apoyo de ustedes es el que nos permite seguir denunciando estas barbaridades. Ahora sí, antes de que lleguemos al momento en el cual Karoline Leavitt se enfrentó a preguntas sobre el escándalo mortal de Trump, quiero que empecemos con otro ejemplo de cómo es que este presidente está poniendo en riesgo vidas. Y se trata de los despidos y renuncias masivas en el Centro de Control y Prevención de Enfermedades, el cual pues Karoline Leavitt no supo explicar.
Caroline, thank you so much. First on the firing of the CDC director, first,
Sure.
Who will replace her? And then also, overnight the White House said that she did not align with the president's agenda. Dr. Menard's attorneys say that she refused to rubber stamp unscientific, reckless directives and fire dedicated health experts. What specifically did she do wrong?
Look, what I will say about this individual is that her lawyer's statement made it abundantly clear themselves that she was not aligned with the president's mission to make America healthy again. And the secretary asked her to resign. She said she would, and then she said she wouldn't, so the president fired her, which he has every right to do. It was President Trump who was overwhelmingly reelected on November 5th. This woman has never received a vote in her life, and the president has the authority to fire those who are not aligned with his mission. A new replacement will be announced by either the president or the secretary very soon, and the president and Secretary Kennedy are committed to restoring trust and transparency and credibility to the CDC by ensuring their leadership and their decisions are more public-facing, more accountable, strengthening our public health system, and restoring it to its core mission of protecting Americans from communicable diseases, investing in innovation to prevent, detect, and respond to future threats. That's the mission of the CDC, and we're going to make sure that folks that are in positions of leadership there are aligned with that mission.
¿Se dan cuenta, no? Cuando la acorralan con datos reales, oficiales, Leavitt responde con evasivas, con ataques políticos. Todo lo que no tiene nada que ver con el tema. Lo mismo sucedió cuando le preguntaron sobre las críticas por parte del gobernador demócrata J.B. Pritzker. Y otra vez explotó contra él con insultos en lugar de respuestas.
Go ahead.
With respect to Labor Day, one of the most underrepresented groups right now are police officers. 30,000 police officers short in America right now. To Brandon's question, 1,300 short in Chicago, 3,000 short in New York, 500 short here in Washington, D.C. What can the White House, what can the President do to help recruitment of police officers? You've done well with the military and Border Patrol. What can be done to get more police officers on the streets of America?
Well, the president has certainly been very successful in recruiting federal law enforcement. If you look at the ICE recruitment campaign that was led by he and our Secretary of Homeland Security, we've seen more than, I believe, 130,000 applicants to join ICE, which is just amazing. There's more applicants now than there are jobs to fill, and we're very grateful for that. Clearly, Americans want to serve their communities. They just need a leader who encourages them to do so. So maybe Governor Pritzker should spend less time demonizing the police, more time trying to recruit more police, and more time trying to call the President of the United States to get crime in his city under control. The President wants to allow law enforcement, whether it's state, local, federal, to do their jobs, to arrest criminals, to put them behind bars, and to remove public safety threats from American communities. He'll continue to do that. Thank you, guys.
Y es que esto es lo que estamos viendo. Un gobierno que está obsesionado con militarizar ciudades, con soldados armados en lugares simbólicos como el Lincoln Memorial, mientras Trump sigue defendiendo bases confederadas. Es algo totalmente patético. Es un ataque directo a la democracia de los Estados Unidos y es un espectáculo humillante frente al mundo. Lo más grave es que Leavitt ni siquiera intenta mostrar empatía. Al contrario, lo que hace es repetir el guión trumpista, el guión de Trump, de Miller, de J.D. Vance, burlándose de la gente, tratándolos como si fueran ignorantes. Y ojo que lo he dicho antes y lo vuelvo a repetir. Nadie tiene más desprecio por los votantes MAGA que los mismos líderes MAGA. Ellos ven a su base radical como tontos, que pueden manipularlos, que pueden quitarles todo, desde el Medicaid hasta la seguridad de sus hijos frente a la violencia armada.
I have been thinking, as I'm sure everybody who has consumed this today has been doing as well, about my kids who happen to be about the same ages as the two who were killed, about sending them off to school this morning. I've been thinking about their friends and their teachers, about all the parents, about all the grandparents out there navigating the return to school. And all they should be hoping to do is have someone to sit with at lunch or someone to play with on the playground. And they should be waiting to hear an update when they get home. And that is not what these parents at this school experience today. Sorry, this is a tough one. Having your child killed while they are sitting in a pew for a morning prayer service is not what any parent should have to worry about. And I have felt a mixture of anger and a lot of anger and emotional exhaustion about this today, as I'm sure many of you have, because we have been here so many times. And yet again, like clockwork, half of the politicians in our country have little more to offer than thoughts and prayers. That is all they are offering. Join all of us in praying for the victims, was Vice President J.D. Vance's response today. That's what he said. That's it. Please join me in praying for everyone involved, Trump wrote. We have seen this play out over and over again. There is a shooting, then come the thoughts and prayers, and then comes the attempt to shift the focus. This is what always happens. You're going to start seeing narratives. You're already seeing them. They're already out there about how the shooter was trans. You're going to see narratives about how the shooter appeared to be anti-Trump and anti-Semitic and clearly was in the midst of a mental health crisis. There's no question about that. But here's the thing. There are trans people all over the world. There are anti-Semitic people, unfortunately, all over the world. And people filled with plenty of political hate all over the world. And mental health issues are not unique to the United States. And yes, we should do more to address them. But it's also an issue all over the world. But this is the only country where shootings like this one happened this often.
Esto es lo que significa gobernar con empatía, preocuparse de verdad por la vida de la gente. Algo que ni Trump ni Caroline Leavitt pueden comprender. Y como era de esperarse, cuando Jen Psaki dio este mensaje emocional sobre el cambio que necesita Estados Unidos, Caroline Leavitt no dudó en burlarse de ella.
Yes, I saw the comments of my predecessor, Ms. Psaki, and frankly, I think they're incredibly insensitive and disrespectful to the tens of millions of Americans of faith across this country who believe in the power of prayer, who believe that prayer works, and who believe that in a time of mourning like this, when beautiful young children were killed while praying in a church.
Este es el nivel de bajeza que existe en este momento en la Casa Blanca. Una portavoz que prefiere atacar a víctimas y ridiculizar a quienes piden soluciones, en lugar de asumir que el país está en crisis. Y todo esto por culpa de Trump. Ahora bien, amigos, Donald Trump es, para mí, debilidad disfrazada de fuerza. A él le gusta venderse como el tipo rudo, como el macho, el fuerte. La verdad no lo es. En los últimos meses hemos visto cómo su deterioro físico, su deterioro mental es tan evidente, que lo hace ver tan patético, y lo hace ver como realmente es. Palabras arrastradas, recuerdos falsos y ataques nocturnos en redes sociales. Y justo pues eso fue lo que vimos otra vez luego de que el gobernador Wes Moore expusiera su crisis de salud. Pues sí, Moore volvió a darle este golpe directo. y Donald Trump se derrumbó en un nuevo arranque de ataques en Truth Social. Antes de que hablemos de este berrinche a las 3 de la mañana, quiero comenzar con alguien que viene llamando a Trump débil desde hace mucho tiempo y cada vez lo saca más de quicio. Ese es Gavin Newsom.
You have the largest private police force in the world. When they're done with this, all that funding and that big, beautiful portrayal allows more resources for this private police force that increasingly is showing a tendency not to swear an oath to the Constitution, but to the President of the United States. And he'll be sending them to voting booths and polling places all across this country. This is a real and serious moment in U.S. history. And by the way, I say that as an American, not as a Democrat. Every Republican should be ashamed about this and scared to death about not just these authoritarian tendencies, but these authoritarian actions by the president. He is weak. He's weakness masquerading as strength. And that makes him more dangerous than most people believe.
No hay fuerza en Trump. No hay voluntad real de gobernar. Claro, mejor que no quiera hacer nada, porque es algo que toca, algo que destruye. Pero la verdad es que Trump nunca ha buscado soluciones a largo plazo. Por eso jamás pudo reducir el crimen en Washington, D.C., porque no le interesa, porque requiere trabajo de verdad. Y ahí es donde entran los gobernadores demócratas, los que sí tienen resultados. Eso fue lo que señaló Wes Moore y justamente lo que provocó esta rabieta nocturna de Donald Trump.
So here in D.C., there are guardsmen from 6 different states on the street. The mission is, quote, beautification, duty, and support. The defense secretary has authorized them to carry M4 and M17 rifles, but to date, we have not been able to locate anyone armed within the National Guard on the streets of D.C. Why, though, are you so opposed to this deployment?
Well, there's plenty of reasons. One, it is not sustainable. You cannot continue this type of pace of operations, particularly when it's costing over $1 million a day in order to do this. The second, it's not scalable. You're not going to be able to do this in every single major American city, particularly when many of the cities that have the highest crime rates are the places that have actually deployed their National Guards to Washington, D.C. So who's going to go do the work in their cities? The third, it's unconstitutional. It's a direct violation of the 10th Amendment. And if for a party that talks about state rights, it's amazing how they're having such a big government approach in the way they're conducting public safety. The fourth reason is because it's deeply disrespectful to the members of the National Guard. As someone who actually deployed overseas and served my country in combat, to ask these men and women to do a job that they're not trained for is just deeply disrespectful. And so when we're thinking about all of these lasting factors, when we're thinking about the fact that it serves as a distraction from the fact that the president's disastrous economic policies are making everything more expensive for everyday Americans and making life harder for everyday Americans, there is a multitude of reasons that I am against this, and I will not authorize the Maryland National Guard to be utilized for this.
Well, the National Guard does say that these troops will be trained and deputized by federal marshals. So this is going to be distinct from the military rules of engagement.
But it is counter to every bit of training that we've received. When I joined the military, we joined with a clear intention to fight and win our nation's wars. The members of our National Guard are trained up to be able to address things like emergency situations where you need a surge of supports for traumas and disasters that are happening within individual jurisdictions. That is not this. And this is a direct deflection that the president is authorizing.
We know the president watches the program, and he likely saw the guest listing because he's tweeting about you, or truthing, I guess. He says the governor, Wes Moore of Maryland, has asked in a nasty and provocative tone that I walk the streets of Maryland with him. And he's talking about crime-ridden Baltimore. It's quite lengthy, but he goes after your record on crime. He says it's a bad one. He says if you need help, he will send in the troops, which is being done in nearby D.C. I mean, when we saw a few weeks ago the deployment on the streets of Los Angeles, the governor of California tried to go to the courts, and he was unable to stop it. Is the reality here is you can't stop the president from sending troops to Baltimore if he wants to.
The year before I became the governor, in 2022, Baltimore was averaging almost a homicide a day. And I came in and I said, I refuse to be a governor who just offers thoughts and prayers to this situation. So we said we're actually going to work in partnership with Mayor Scott, work in partnership with local elected officials, work in partnership with local law enforcement. We made the largest investments in local law enforcement in our state's history, over $50 million going to Baltimore City alone.
That came from federal money.
That came from both federal and state money. And also, Maryland became one of the only states that actually helps to fund the U.S. attorney out of balance sheet, taking many of those gun crimes and actually turning them into federal charges. And the results have been incredibly encouraging, where Maryland's had amongst the fastest drops in violent crime of anywhere in the United States in the past 2.5 years. Yeah. The homicide rate in Maryland is down over 20% since I have been the governor. And the last time the homicide rate was this low in Baltimore City, I was not born yet. And so the reason that I've asked the president to come and join us is because he seems to enjoy living in this blissful ignorance, these tropes and these 1980 scare tactics. And, just last week I was in Baltimore, and I was with a group called We Are Us, who's a violence intervention group. And they say, we're all we got, we're all we need. And that's exactly how people in this community feel. Because while the president is spending his time from the Oval Office making jabs and attacks at us, there are people actually on the ground doing the work who know what supports would actually work to continue to bring down crime, but it's falling on deaf ears of the President of the United States.
You're talking about the positive trend line. The president's pointing to the FBI statistics, which shows Baltimore is the 5th most instances of violent crime on a per capita basis, 4th highest murder rate. To your point, the city of Memphis is also on that list, and the governor of Tennessee sent those National Guard troops here to this city, not to the streets of Memphis. But
and we know we have work to do. We know, like, if one.
Lo que estamos viendo en Washington, D.C. no es más que un show al estilo trompista. Tanques, guardias, despliegue militar solo para la foto, para decir que combate el crimen, cuando en realidad lo único que hace es usar el miedo como una excusa para expandir su poder. ¿El plan es real? Amigos, el plan real es llevar ese mismo modelo a otras ciudades. Baltimore, Chicago, Detroit, Atlanta. Autoritarismo puro y duro. Pero claro, la ironía es evidente, ¿no? Trump habla de seguridad y de caminar las calles, cuando ni siquiera puede caminar él mismo. Su estado físico es tan deplorable que no se atreve a dar un solo paso. Por eso la invitación de Wes Moore a caminar por Baltimore lo hizo estallar. Donald Trump respondió con un ataque absurdo. Sacó un artículo viejo para cuestionar el historial militar de Moore, un veterano condecorado. Bueno, ojo que esto viniendo del hombre de las Von Spurs, el hombre que evitó el servicio militar alegando dolencias inventadas. Ridículo. Pues bueno, mientras tanto Trump sigue buscando excusas para poder intimidar, porque lo sabe, es débil, es patético y la única forma de poder mantener el control es atacando a cualquiera que lo critique. El truco ya no le funciona, porque en Washington, D.C., la gente ya no se traga sus teatros. Miren este ejemplo.
There's a video you may have seen of a guy named Sean Dunn, a former Department of Justice staffer and Afghanistan veteran, who lost his temper and threw a Subway sandwich at a federal agent while protesting Donald Trump's takeover of the Capitol.
Another
That happened earlier this month. Dunn was initially detained and then released. Now, I think it is not a good idea to throw sandwiches at people. I don't think Dunn should have done that. But the response to the sandwich throwing incident from the White House wasn't just disproportionate. It was absolutely unhinged.
An individual went up to one of the federal law enforcement officers and started jumping up and down, screaming at him, berating him, yelling at him. And then he took a Subway sandwich about this big and took it and threw it at the officer. He thought it was funny. Well, he doesn't think it's funny today because we charged him with a felony, assault on a police officer. And we're going to back the police to the hilt. So there, stick your Subway sandwich somewhere else.
According to local news report, Dunn repeatedly tried to turn himself in upon seeing what a big deal the White House was making over his case, but he was unsuccessful. Instead, his arrest was the subject of one of the most deranged propaganda videos I've ever seen in my life, certainly ever seen put out by the U.S. government. It looks like a scene from Narcos or maybe a Paul Verhoeven film like RoboCop. What appears to be about a dozen heavily armed FBI agents and U.S. Marshals with body armor and riot shields storming a luxury condo building in Washington's West End to detain a guy in jeans who is obviously not resisting in any way, all because he is accused of throwing a sandwich. And here's the kicker. Today we learned that federal prosecutors were not able to convince a grand jury to charge him with a felony. A group of his peers simply refused to buy the government's ginned-up case. And to be clear, in normal times, it is extraordinarily rare for a grand jury to refuse to approve an indictment. The deck is heavily stacked towards the prosecutors in these situations. There's the old cliche, right? You could get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich. And yet, the U.S. Attorney's Office for D.C. could not get a grand jury to indict a guy for throwing the sandwich. This isn't an isolated incident. Earlier this week, we learned that same U.S. Attorney, Jeanine Pirro, last seen on Fox's The Five, that her office similarly failed to get a felony indictment against a woman who's alleged to have tried to block ICE from detaining someone. Not one, not two, but 3 grand juries refused to sign off on felony charges in that case. Eventually, Pirro just gave up, charged her with a misdemeanor instead.
Un simple montaje para las redes sociales, usando tropas como si fueran extras de su reality show. Eso es lo que hace Trump. Espectáculos baratos, no soluciones. Y de este modo, Moore sigue denunciando esa farsa.
So once again, the president's showing that this is not about policy. This is not about supporting your people. This is not about what it's going to do to port workers and small businesses. This is an ideology. And it's a deeply dangerous ideology. And frankly, again, something he's talking about pulling that he did not give us in the first place. And that's why I tell our people, do not let someone take your power who did not give it to you in the first place.
Amigos, esa es la diferencia. Donald Trump no cuida a nadie. Perdona a criminales más bien. Indulta a golpistas. Protege a aliados corruptos. En cambio, vemos como demócratas, no todos, pero muchos, trabajan en soluciones reales. Soluciones para garantizar la seguridad de la gente. Señores, esa es la pura verdad, sin adornos. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme hasta el final de este video. Recuerda, como siempre, dale like, comparte nuestro contenido y suscríbete a nuestro canal. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.